Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar on renewing your work or study permit. My name is Ingrid, and I will be your presenter for today. Okay, now we'll just take a look at, if you have any questions, you may use the raised hand sign. There is the questions and answers dialog box that you may use to let me know either that you have a question. So use the raised hand sign, and you can type your question in the questions and answers dialog box as well. Let's take a look at today's agenda. We're going to be looking at when to apply for a study permit or extension, what to do when your studies end earlier or later than the anticipated time, and what to do when your studies have been completed. When to extend your study permit. The expiry date on your study permit tells you when you have to stop studying. This date could be the length of your program plus 90 days. So that would mean if your program is, let's say, for example, a one-year study program, you would have the 1 year, so that 12 months plus an additional 90 days. Sometimes it could as well go for prerequisite courses plus 90 days extra. So if you have prerequisites that you need to complete prior to beginning your program, then you would have the time frame for the prerequisites along with your course, the number of days for the course, and the 90 additional days as well. It could also be your passport's expiration date minus 30 days. This is if your passport will expire before you can finish your studies. The 90 extra days gives you time to prepare to leave Canada or to apply to extend your status in Canada. When do you extend your study permit is a question that we've been asked a few times. And so just to give you a response on that, you need to extend your study permit at least 30 days before it expires. The expiry date is in the top right-hand corner of your permit. You can't extend your study permit beyond the expiry date on your passport, so that's something that you should keep in mind. If you apply before your current permit expires, you can stay in Canada under the same conditions as your current study permit until Citizenship and Immigration Canada reaches a decision. You should apply to extend your study permit if you plan to travel outside of Canada and your permit will expire while you're traveling. If your study permit expires and you haven't applied for an extension, you must leave Canada. So do not allow the permit to expire before you apply, because then you run into various different situations. For more information, please visit www.canada.ca. You'll find information on immigration and citizenship services, as well as how to extend your stay in Canada. How to apply for a study permit extension? Well, before you apply to extend your study permit, please make sure your school is on the designated learning institutions list. If you got a study permit before June 1st, 2014, and you are studying at a school that isn't on the designated learning institution list, or for short form, it's called the DLI, you can keep studying for the length of your current permit and extend your study permit to complete your program, but not past June that was passed here, June 2017. So after that, you will have to enroll at a designated learning institution. Let me repeat that. If you got your study permit, so if I'm speaking to someone who's been here prior to June 2014, and you're studying at an institution or a school that is not now found on the designated learning institutions list, because that list changes. So if it has been amended and your institution is not on that list, then what you need to do is you need to find an institution that is on the designated learning list for you to apply for an extension. And if you've been here and you're still here, then June 1st, 2017 would have been your deadline to do this. So you can apply to extend your study permit in Canada by completing an online application or a paper application. If you're applying on paper, online, or on, so let's say that you've decided that you would like to apply using the paper format, then you're going to have to download the application package. If you are applying online, then you need to have a valid credit card so that you can make the payment that is required of you. Once you get the package, if you're using the paper version, once you get that package, you simply need to complete it, pay your application fees, and submit your application. So it's not a very difficult process at all. Now, if your study permit expires, it means that you have lost status in Canada. Okay, now there are some cases when you can actually restore that. So again, it would mean that you have lost your Canadian status if you are still here when that permit expires. So if the expiry date of your permit has passed, you will lose status if you have not yet applied. So one of the things that we strongly suggest for those who may be in that particular situation is that you need to apply for a new study permit, a work permit, or try to apply for to apply as a visitor in Canada. Now, the truth is, if you allow your permit to expire before doing any of those things, it simply means that you have not actually respected the conditions of the permit, and you can reapply. It's not necessary that Immigration Canada will say 100% that they will restore your status. Now, if you also have family members who've lost their status, everyone must apply and pay to get it restored. Now, what you're going to do is you are going to submit your application. It must be submitted within 90 days of losing your status. You must continue to keep meeting the requirements that are, whatever is required of you for you to stay here. You must meet all the conditions listed on your current permit, and you have to pay the restoration fees. So the restoration fee is $200, and then for an additional study permit, you would also pay an additional $150. On the application that you complete, you must clearly and completely explain how and why you lost your status. There's no guarantee, like I said initially, that that the application will be accepted. You may stay in Canada while Citizenship and Immigration Canada makes that decision. Now, if you want to get more information on that, please feel free to visit www.canada.ca, where you will find a lot more information on applying once your status has been disrupted. If your studies are completed earlier or later than the anticipated date provided by your institution of study, there are a few options that you can explore. It's not necessary that, okay, well, I came, I fast-tracked, now I've completed my studies and there's absolutely nothing more that I can do. There are different options that you can explore, and I believe that you'd like to hear about these. So we're just going to run through these very quickly. Now, your permit will expire 90 days after the day you complete your studies, no matter what the expiry date on the study permit is. So again, if you have fast-tracked your program, it means that 90 days after you have completed studying, your permit is no longer valid. The 90 days begins on the date you get the first notification. And that notification can be in the form of a letter, an email, perhaps your transcript, or any other method that your learning institution uses to advise you that, you know, your program is ended. Or we want to take a look at the fact that if you, in fact, have your studies have completed before the time, if you want to keep studying, you must apply to extend your study permit at least 30 days before your permit expires. Hopefully that makes sense. Now, the date you receive your degree, your diploma, or your certificate, that is also another form of them counting down to say, this is when your 90 days begins, okay? And again, you can definitely apply for a study permit extension 30 days before the current one expires. Now, make sure you apply before your current status is gone. It's actually just common sense. It will save you a lot of stress. It'll save you a lot of hassle. Once again, you have these number of days to get these things done. You may think that, you know, I have a lot of time, but the reality is that 90 days is very limited time. It's not a lot. So please be very conscious of this. Look at your documents. If you are planning on remaining here in Canada, checking your documents is something that you absolutely want to do quite frequently. If your studies end later than your expected date, you can apply to extend your study permit up to 30 days before the original expiration date. Use the application to change condition or extend your stay in Canada as a student. And this application can be found on www.canada.ca's website. Now, this application is used to extend your stay, change the conditions of your stay, change your type of temporary status, or correct a problem with your status. So just in case you know someone who's got some issues, this is the exact same form that you would need to use. It's called Change Condition or Extend Your Stay in Canada as a Student. That's the name of the application. The application must be done before your status expires. Now, if you notice anything about this information that we've been giving you so far, it actually continuously tells you, make your application prior to expiration of your status. A separate application must be used if you are extending your study permit and renewing your temporary resident visa. So let's just put this into context for you. If you are here in Canada and you need to both extend your study permit and renew your temporary resident visa, you must submit separate applications for the new visa and for your study permit. Now, only after immigration approves the extension of your study permit can you then extend your temporary visa. Hopefully that makes sense. If you need more answers, you can either contact your student office, the International Student Office on your campus, or you can definitely check out the website www.canada.ca. Now, if you're choosing to remain in Canada, and a lot of students have done this, this is something we know dual intent is quite normal. Now, if you are intending to remain in Canada after graduation, then there are a few things that you can do as well. One of them would be to apply for a postgraduate work permit. The other would be to apply to change your status in Canada. So go to www.canada.ca. Now, When you're applying for a postgraduate work permit, there are a few conditions to this. For those of you who do not know about it, you can apply for the postgraduate work permit if you are over the age of 18, you have a valid study permit when you apply for the work permit, you have studied continuously full-time in Canada for at least 8 months or more. So if your program is only a 6-month program, then you do not qualify for the postgraduate work permit. Your postgraduate work permit is conditional on the fact that you have studied full-time in Canada for at least 8 months. So when we talk about full-time, we're talking about consecutive months, so 8 consecutive months. If you are going to study for 2 years, let's say, and you started one program at perhaps a college, and then you decide to transition from the college to a university, you can do that, but you can't take a break between the time that you have completed your study. So let's say that your last year of study in the college would be, June 2017. You can go the summer, so take the summer off, because that's not considered part of the school year. So you can take the summer off and then transition directly to the next program in university. So if you're going to go from a diploma to a bachelor's degree, then that's how you would do it. If you go from, let's say, the diploma, you took a year off because you have a visa and you're eligible to remain in Canada as a temporary resident, and then you decide to apply for university and go after that 1-year period, please note that your postgraduate work permit is not going to then be 2 years because you have missed that time frame. So you need to ensure that you are studying consistently, okay? Now, you must have completed and passed all your program requirements and have proof in the form of either a transcript from your school, an official letter, or your certificate. You must apply for the work permit within 90 days of when it was confirmed that you have completed your program. So that's it for the postgraduate work permit, and it's really a good tool for you to apply for the postgraduate work permit and then gather the work experience that you need while you're working so that you can apply on your own to become a permanent resident of Canada. The next step would be that you can also apply to change your status in Canada. You can apply to extend your stay in Canada by completing an online application or the paper application. If you're applying on paper online, you will need access to a scanner or camera to create electronic copies of your documents. If you're applying on paper, you will need to get the package and complete it, pay your application fees, and submit your application at www.canada.ca. That will give you all the information that you need. Now, that is pretty much all the information we have for you regarding the applying or extending your work permit or your student visa. Now, we have some resources for you. Our website is www.internationalstudentconnect.org. There is absolutely no cost to use this website. On our website, you will find a wealth of information, as you can see listed here. There's a handbook, an international student guide. You can access this information if you're looking for additional information. Now, we also have our transition plan, and the transition plan actually is a very useful tool, especially for those who are thinking of remaining in Canada after they have completed their studies. Now, you may need to plan and set goals for short-term stay, a full program, or even a transition to permanent residency after graduation. Whether you need to arrange for a healthcare provider, get a social insurance number, apply for a bursary, or even make arrangements for summer housing, which is quite common. This is something that could be very helpful for you. Definitely go to our website and review the transition plan, and then just go ahead and use it. It is there for you at absolutely no cost to you. Tell you a little bit about the International Student Connect project. This project is funded by the Ontario Ministry of Citizenship and Immigration. It was created as a resource to support international students and their families. Our organization is Costi Immigrant Services, and we're a community-based multicultural agency. We serve over 39,000 clients annually through our 17 locations, and our organization is the organization that coordinates this project right across Ontario. If you have any additional questions you'd like to contact us, please do feel free to give us a call at 1-844-871-4567, or you may email us at isc@costi.org. We thank you for joining us today for our very brief webinar, and hopefully if you have any additional questions, if you would like, you can contact us. If not, please do visit www.canada.ca. Thank you once again for joining us, and I hope you have a great afternoon.